Hello, everyone, and welcome to another live stream match of the week. This time, it is the final of our Shane O'Mania. I don't even have my gimmick on. I'm a mess. Shane O'Mania. That's a lot of Shane McMahon. It's a lot of Mania, and it's definitely manic here in the Colonial Dungeon as I'm just getting my hootenannies together so we can watch ourselves a match. Got my very worn Man Scout Jake Manning shirt on. You can't even tell what it says anymore. I should probably get another one from him. But in any case, we're here to watch Shane McMahon. And if that's not enough to drive you away from this episode, we are also going to be watching Shane McMahon's WrestleMania match against AJ Styles. Now, a lot of people really like this match. When I watched it recently, I'm not going to lie to you guys, I didn't like it at all. So maybe, just maybe, I need to watch this again with all of you instead. And maybe that will give me a different perspective on it. As you can tell, I've got my John Lynch jersey in the background. Shout out to my friend Jonathan, by the way, who got it for me. Of course, this is Super Bowl weekend. I have neither a Rams nor Bengals jersey. So, that's what I got. But in any case, we're instead going to watch Shane McMahon versus AJ Styles instead of me talking about football, because that's not what this show is about. This matchup is, of course, the third of our three that we are doing as a match of the week live reaction in anticipation of our 100th episode release, which I've had to postpone because I have not only, it's a big episode, it's 2.5 hours long, but I also have to work now. I started work up again. So I've kind of been getting reacclimated into that, so I haven't had the time to really actually edit it the way I'd properly want to. So that's what's happening after this live stream, as well as most of tomorrow. So expect the 100th episode on Sunday instead. And it's going to be before the Super Bowl. So you will not have to worry about competing with sports in case sports are the kind of thing you'd like to watch. It's going to be long before then, so you can get a nice dollop of Court-Martail podcast before you watch what I consider to be a great game of football, but an even better episode of the Court-Martail podcast. So AJ Styles versus Shane McMahon. Why don't we just get into this match and then we can talk about it a little bit more, because I want to talk about this match for what it is and why I don't like this match compared to the other two we've seen, the Shawn Michaels versus Shane McMahon match, which was okay. Definitely one of Shane's better working matches, and Shawn, it just turned into a Shawn Michaels match. And then, of course, the Austin and Shane and Vince also ladder match, or actually the other one was a street fight. I think the street fight was the Shane McMahon Shawn Michaels match. This was a ladder match, and that match was just some Attitude Era mayhem. So that's really what that boils down to. But why don't we just get into this? WrestleMania 33, what's supposed to be the best match on the show. For those of you who have never done this before, here's how we do it. I break it down. I go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's go. And on go, press play, and we'll play. Now, when you get an advertisement, and give me just 1 second here, because I got to grab my phone into the pit of darkness, which is the Colonial Dungeon, which is a lot more apropos for a dungeon, just having one light and then the rest be this. When we get to the ads, and I know that this is different for everybody, so I just don't have a better way to combat this with the way that it is. We're just going to have to do, going forward in the next 100 episodes, we're going to try to do videos that are not under WWE's banner. Hopefully that will reduce the number, or at least get rid of the ads, or at least synchronize where the ads are. Because with WWE videos, they're all over the goddamn place. So, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait 45 seconds. I got a timer here. We did this the last time. I'm going to do it for this one too. So every 45 seconds, when I get an ad, I'm going to wait 45 seconds. Once, from the start of the ad to the end of the ad. I'll show you with the timer right here. Yeah, you probably can't see it. Yeah, that's just a big bright phone. Yep, there it is. 45 seconds. I know it's backwards, but in 45 seconds. And then after that 45 seconds, I'm going to give you the timestamp. We're going to keep going. So that way we are all going to sync up together. So then you and I can work through this. Unfortunately, I don't have a better way to do it except for that at this moment. But if you come up with something, you let us know here at the Court-Martail podcast, and we will adjust. because we are all about reshaping and re-innovating and re-energizing, revolutionizing, and colonizing the professional wrestling podcasting world as we know it. But without further ado, let's get this going, shall we? The link to the match is not only in the description, but I'm also going to send it in the chat. Whoa, that's not the link. That's a whole bunch of tags that y'all don't need to see, because that's not that it's anything exclusive. But here's my subtle plug for Man Scout Jake Manning, who I hope is doing well, because the last Instagram post I saw of him, he was not having that good a time. So I'm hoping that he's doing well, because I like Man Scout. I love me some Man Scout. All right. There's the link that we've got right here. So if you click it up, we're going to go to 000. And then I'm going to count us down, and we're going to give this a watch, and we'll see how we feel going into this match. Now, Shane McMahon in 2016 had been doing a lot of really good work as SmackDown's general manager or commissioner, however they put it, because it was Daniel Bryan was the general manager. But he and AJ were kind of on a collision course. And then, of course, that following year after this, WrestleMania is when they got the Hell in a Cell match with Kevin Owens and his feud with him and Zayn. Shane's work here in this year and a half was quite good, except it wasn't necessarily the Shane McMahon that we wanted. And I'm going to explain in this matchup why that is. So here we are, 0-0-0. Let's get this going, shall we? In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's go. All right. Shane and AJ. Now, one of the things about Shane McMahon that I've always liked is that Shane never tried to be anything that he wasn't, right? When Shane McMahon was younger, he was the boss's son. And he was the wrestler, the boss's son. But he wasn't, he wasn't a major wrestler. He could do some of the holds. He could surprise people with stuff. But there was no gimmick. He believed he could beat people, but at the end of the day, he always needed help. He wasn't a wrestler, so to speak. Even though he took to the wrestling aspect better than his dad. But I think what you're going to see here in this matchup is a lot more technique from Shane McMahon than you'd ever want to see on that basis. And I just wanted you to keep this in mind, because I think it's a gimmick change that I really don't like, because if this were the way that I would do it, AJ would just out wrestle Shane regardless, and Shane would not get the kind of moves that he does in this situation. And I know this early part is with AJ coming here, and Shane, of course, is the babyface. AJ is heel, and this was short. Even though AJ was a heel, he never really, at this point, he was slowly kind of baby facing his way around. But this is before that time. AJ was on fire during this time. But as this match goes on, you're going to see a lot more. I want you to think of Kurt Angle every time you watch Shane McMahon. And then think about how weird it is to have Shane McMahon executing these moves. But I want you to keep Kurt Angle in mind when you watch Shane McMahon wrestle. Like that toss over there, right? This is the point where we're supposed to believe that Shane McMahon is as much of a wrestler as AJ Styles. Yeah, the side and then the sweep takeover. Look at that. And then the sloppy roll over to the pin, which Angle would have nailed. But that's straight out of Kurt Angle's playbook. And, it's one thing for Shane to pop that out now and again, but this whole match is going to go so back and forth that Shane McMahon in his late 40s is trying to prove to everyone that he is of the same level and caliber as a late 30s AJ Styles. And AJ will sell like that. And that's what bothers me about everything about Shane McMahon going forward. And this was really what started that whole best in the world turn and why people really started to hate him. Because it wasn't that he didn't know how to wrestle. It's that for his gimmick, this is not what he should be doing. At least that was the way that I took it. This is when he started getting like, hey, I'm just as MMA as everybody else. And it started here because he didn't do any of that shadow boxing stuff prior to this, right here. These little tiny shadow box punches. He did not do that in his earlier years. But this was the, I'm just as MMA as the Joe Rogans. And yeah. And that's the thing that bothers me about this match. And that's the thing, is that this feels so out of gimmick for Shane McMahon. And that's, I think, why I soured on Shane McMahon in his later years. Even though his matchup with Kevin Owens at Hell in a Cell was incredible. And then the dump through the top. And, here we are at an ad. We're going to start the timer. We've got a 15-second skippable, so we're going to stop it. We're at 4:03, but we've got 37 seconds left. So for those of you who may have already had an ad, for those of you who may be going through a longer ad, we're going to pause it here. So we got 30 seconds. We are at 4 minutes and 3 seconds on the timer, on the actual video. So when this actually bell, and I'm going to count it back down, we're going to press play and we're going to keep going. This is the only way I figure we could do this, and that makes the most sense. We are down to the final 12 seconds, and then we're going to get this going. For those of you who have just gotten out of the ads, the timestamp you're going to is 4:03 in 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Evan, 4:08. Just so you're in the same minute. Now AJ going to do a dive. Of course, the baseball slide, and Shane with his trademark slide over the table. And that's pretty standard too. Also, I have to mention the commentary team for this matchup. The commentary team is Tom Phillips, JBL, and David Otunga. And David Otunga contributed nothing to this matchup. Nothing. And JBL, people crap on JBL. I didn't even think he was that bad. He says some stupid stuff, but I didn't think he was that bad. And right hand. And you notice that AJ's laying in every shot, and Shane gets those crappy shadow punches that everyone's supposed to sell, which is why I don't understand why Shane had to spar with Riddle at the Rumble. Because, again, unrealistic. It's Shane McMahon being unrealistic, and that's the whole thing. It's like, it's one thing to be a delusional heel, but it's another to sell for the delusional heel's delusion. That way. And listen to how many people are cheering for AJ Styles right now. And I'm not saying that Shane didn't work hard. I'm never saying that Shane doesn't work hard in these matchups, but that's not the point. That's not the point. It's you're going against what you've already established to be yourself. That's where I take issue with this. And we haven't even really gotten into the nitty-gritty yet. This is just the early going. But again, there really is not much of a heat spot here because this is going to go so back and forth that you really don't have that kind of pace. This is Shane McMahon trying to work a modern style wrestling match. And now more shadow boxing, and Shane's punches are like very miss and sometimes hit. And a kick, and I love that float over that he did there. But Shane very smart knocking AJ over. And again, I'm not knocking Shane's mind for a match, right? Again, that's not what I'm contesting, right? A lot of people are saying like, oh, well, the quality of this match was so good. I was like, yeah, technically, sure. But that's not my problem with this match. My problem is with Shane McMahon's, the actual gimmick work of Shane McMahon here. And how this just doesn't fit. It just doesn't fit. Now these jabs are definitely Shane McMahon. That's fine. Like, Some parts of this are fine, but it's really when he gets into that technical wrestling stuff, that's where the problems are. I like this jab stuff because that's the Shane McMahon taking advantage type of thing. The look at this hand, hit you with that. That's all fine. That's Shane McMahon. Then the reverse elbow again. I'm not disputing Shane's ability. Shane's ability goes without saying, and I appreciate that he was doing this in his 50s, but he should not be wrestling with that big talk. He just suplexed him like Kurt freaking Angle. Oh, speaking of, how about an angle slam? Shane McMahon is trying to tell you that he's Kurt Angle, and it does not work. Advertisement. We're going to skip the ad. I've started the 45 seconds. We are at 8 minutes and 9 seconds with 38 seconds on the clock here. So I'm glad that they did that angle slam at the end of it. And I'm like, you see what I'm saying? This is Shane McMahon is wrestling like Kurt Angle when he should be wrestling like Shane McMahon. And I think that's my biggest problem with this match is that this is the first time we've seen that out of gimmick Shane McMahon because he has to prove to everybody that he can do a jillion things. And that was really never Shane's MO, and it should never have become Shane's MO because I don't think it worked. The best in the world thing. Oh, here we go. I'm sorry. I wasn't even paying any attention. I'm sorry. I'm going to count us back down. I'm sorry. We're at 8 minutes and 9 seconds in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Started getting on a rant too much. And it's 8 minutes and 15 seconds in. And this is definitely an interesting setup here. Because, Shane going for a suplex. But Styles, you got to give credit to Styles. Because, here's the Oshigoroshi. Which we never see anymore. We never see the Oshigoroshi anymore. Even though I don't love the name of that move. But I don't really care about that. Not really. That's small potatoes. That's very small potatoes. Incredibly small potatoes. Potatoes so small they float in water. That's how small the potatoes are. Now going into the gut. And again, it's not that this is a bad match. It's just that Shane should not be considered AJ's equal. That's my biggest problem with this. And you're going to see it more soon. Soon. Well, you'll see it later. It's not AJ's offense that has a problem. It's specifically Shane's offense that I have an issue with in this matchup. And then this counter here into the rear naked choke. And now Shane McMahon is going to prove to you that he's Samoa Joe or, Kurt Angle. Armbar. One of Chris Jericho's favorite moves. One of the many moves that he knows. But I do have to admit, getting an actual armbar makes me happy. But again, this is so much. A Rings of Saturn. He gets a Rings of Saturn. Oh, man. That's what I'm saying. That shouldn't be Shane trying to do all these submissions like he is some sort of MMA, some grappler. He's not. It's almost like Shane McMahon is literally cosplaying Kurt Angle. And I think that's my issue. I'm it's like when you do, like when you're just messing around in SmackDown vs. Raw in whatever or whatever WWE game is, and you give a wrestler a different moveset. This is like if you gave Shane McMahon in a create a wrestler Kurt Angle's moveset and then watch and pit him with AJ Styles. That's what this match feels like. And maybe that's why the tone feels so off for me, regardless of the way that they built this matchup. In a vacuum. And Shane did kind of that funny Batista sell, which was like way more than was necessary. But and this spot. this spot, it was a clever idea, but again, jump 450 into a fucking Weasley ass triangle. Ah, man. This was just AJ was trying to get to the ropes. I do like the way they got out of this, though. I think this was a very creative way to get out of this match. If only this had been done with somebody like Kurt Angle or Samoa Joe, instead of Shane McMahon trying to be like AJ Styles and Samoa Joe. And this is... Oh, we are at an ad. We have made an ad. Okay. We are starting the timer. 45 seconds. It is another 15 seconds skippable here, but we are 12 minutes and 1 second. I'm going to take this time to get some water. And while we have the 23 seconds, I will talk one quick thing about the Super Bowl for those of you who are interested. My pick is the Rams. I would like the Bengals to win. I think it'd be a great story. I just don't see how they're going to stop this Rams team. This Ram is an incredible team. In 12:01, let's go. Man, 45 seconds goes by really fast. And then the counter into the one-handed Styles Clash. And the cover. We are at 1, 2, and of course a kick out, which I don't think he should have kicked out from. That Styles Clash should have done it fairly. It's 12 minutes and 21 seconds right now. 23, 24, 25. And I really don't think the rest of this match that they're about to do, I don't think any of it is necessary. I think they end it with that Styles Clash. It's fine. But the rest of this is just I don't want to call it match masturbation, but a lot of the rest of this match is just moves for the sake of moves. I think if AJ had countered this bitchy ass triangle with a Styles Clash and won, that would have been fine. And nobody would have thought of Shane any less. Especially because what's coming next is mostly just filler. Wow, and people booing Shane. People are booing Shane already, and this was before his heel turn. And I think this is why people soured on him. I genuinely, and look how bad those knees are. That's not Matt Riddle, bro. Oh, ref bump. Forgot about the ref bump. Oh, look at this. German suplex? Yeah, he was trying. That's the only thing that was missing from this Kurt Angle moveset, was the ankle lock and some Germans. And now, are you ready for an incredibly long ref bump spot where the referee will be buried and he will see a good chunk of what's about to happen? And wow, is it a surprise that he chose trash cans in a Shane McMahon match? I wonder what they're planning. And maybe this is just because A, I saw this match about, a week ago. And B, because every Shane McMahon match has a trash can, because every Shane McMahon match has to have this in it. And this, I wouldn't have a problem with this if Shane McMahon had wrestled a regular match, like his regular match. That I wouldn't have had. And I like how the trainers are here trying to tend to Kyoto, but they're not going to tell him that, they're not going to tell him, oh, AJ's cheating and, any of that. There's plenty of witnesses here for this. The trainers are sitting there like talking to him. They're literally like almost laughing with him. He rolls onto his back, so now he can clearly see what's happening. Because his eyes are clearly open. He's right on top of him, going for the coast to coast, and then that, of course, they wouldn't have seen that, but the trash can, of course, hit AJ's head and knocked him down, and that was the big move. Even though Kyoto probably saw all of that, but He's not supposed to do anything, and then he tosses the trash. Didn't even notice that. He tosses the trash can right over Kyoto. Oh man, this is the worst. And this is the same thing. And now, oh look, we brought 2 trash cans. I wonder why. Because now Shane's gonna jump actually over the referee, still up, and actually land a coast to coast. And these trainers, they're not telling him anything. No, he can't see anything. They're literally, you could see the ref, like, you could almost see the ref looking. You could almost see the ref with his head over watching. We are at another ad. Where's my phone? All right. This is a 5-second skippable, but we will stop this anyway. We are at 16:03. We have started the timer. So we will be there in 38 seconds at 16:03, and this will be the last one. This is the last ad, and then we're going to be done with this. So hopefully, as we've been watching this match, you've been able to understand my perspective about this Shane McMahon thing. Now, to be fair, Skylar has a completely different opinion, and that is totally fine, and that's totally cool, and I totally respect that. Because of the 3 matches that we've watched, this is easily the most wrestling. And in 5 seconds, we're going to 16:03. 6, 2, 1, let's go. All right, yeah. Now Shane going to the top. We are at 16:11, 16:12, 16:13, 16:14, 16:15. Referee not watching at all. Kicking AJ Styles. This is a singles match. There are disqualifications, but Shane's got to get his shit in. And then, you ready for another unnecessary spot? Because we're getting for another unnecessary spot. Here's a cover. Kyoto saw all that, but still a cover. The 2 trainers sitting there like with their thumbs up their asses. Everybody popping because nobody's actually paying attention to the rules of this damn thing. And the people just didn't appreciate it, I guess, the way that I once had, the way that I do. Which is why I just didn't like this match. Because if, at least in the case of the Austin and Vince and Shane match and the Shawn Michaels and Shane match, those were both no disqualification matches, so it's the coast to coast made sense. But now we're just doing it in a regular singles match because fuck the rules and fuck that Kyoto can see us anyway. So now Kyoto's just going to like willingly stand up and just talk to those 2 trainers just about their day, I guess. So he's just going to conveniently have his back turned. Even though he should be standing up, he's got a job to do. He's not concussed. Clearly not concussed. Otherwise, there'd be plenty of other people there and we would have gotten another referee. So he's just going to have his back sitting around, looking around the other direction, even though he could very clearly stand up. This has been a very long time. But gotta get Shane's shit in. Can't have a Shane McMahon match without an elbow drop from the top. Now he's turning around, watching it. Now he's up and watching it. This is what I don't understand. It is like, oh, hey. Yeah. And the elbow drop off the top. This is so stupid. How wrestling fans are so easily pleased. Because I remember really enjoying this match. I can't say loving it. I remember really enjoying this match. Oh, now these trainers going over there going, hey, Shane, are you okay? This is so bad. Oh, they buried Kyoto. Now we're going to get a count. Like we're supposed to just remember the rules, or now the rules count. I don't know. Maybe I'm being too hard. Maybe I'm being too critical on these guys. It's not AJ's fault. It's not necessarily Kyoto's fault. This was just badly formatted. Hashtag bad formatting. Again, if AJ had just led most of this match and then Shane made a comeback with most of these moves, I would not have had a problem with this. But this tit for tat, I'm trying to be Kurt Angle thing is a problem. See? Float over DDT, that's pretty standard for Shane, though. I'm used to that. And again, this is done purely. Oh, and AJ's the heel, but he's not going to cheat here. And Shane's just, again, this is literally just done to make Shane look good. Just done to make Shane look good. And he missed. Everyone freaking out about it. I thought that the one that he actually landed in that tag match with The Miz was better than that. And then here we go. AJ's going to hit the forearm, and that's going to be that. Not because Shane cheated, or not because AJ cheated, even though he's a heel. It's not that Shane McMahon has gotten the better of AJ Styles, even though Shane's not a wrestler, so AJ has no choice but to cheat. Shane just missed a wrestling move, by the way, shooting star. Star where Kurt Angle did the moonsault. Shane did a shooting star. Phenomenal forearm, that's it. Yeah. But it's not a match where AJ Styles, the wrestler, led Shane McMahon, not the wrestler, the whole match as far as beating him athletically, shot for shot, out-wrestling him, out-maneuvering him, and then Shane made some surprise comeback and made a surprise and started really rallying through and started doing some wrestling moves that surprised AJ to where AJ started doubting himself and really not believing that he can beat Shane McMahon, maybe thinking maybe Shane is better than he looks as the son of the man, of Vince McMahon. You know, and now maybe I'm a little less sure about myself, so I'm going to have to cheat in order to get myself a win and get some heat. Now, let's not do that. Let's have Shane McMahon wrestle like Kurt Angle against AJ Styles in a tit-for-tat match that's supposed to make us like Shane McMahon more because of what exactly? Because he can do a bunch of moves? Sorry, that doesn't really impress me. Especially, and doing a bunch of moves, I respect the athleticism, right? I said that at the start. But this is not gimmick Shane McMahon. This is not what he is. This is not what he's supposed to be. And I think that's what I have the most problem with this whole thing is that Shane McMahon wrestled like you had given him Kurt Angle's moveset in the video game. And this was the start of Shane McMahon believing that he had to wrestle like one of the wrestlers, hence why he became the best in the world and did the heel thing, blah, blah, blah. But this was the start. This was where that began. And this is where this gimmick change for Shane ended up being, I think, one of the worst things for him. Because really, if he'd never done this, maybe when he did his thing at the Rumble, people wouldn't have hated it so much. But, you know, hindsight is what it is. And until the actual 100th episode, which is airing on Sunday, probably at some point in the afternoon Eastern time, so probably late morning Pacific. And then if you're in that weird mountain time, you live in the middle of the country, just somewhere in between. I don't know the time zones in that area too much. So, you know, Central and Midwest, or I don't remember. I don't know. Anyway, we're in the afternoon Eastern time, in the late morning Central, or Christ, in the late morning Pacific time, and check your local listings. Just it's gonna drop. You know how you're gonna find out when we drop it is if you like, if you share, if you subscribe, and most importantly, you switch that bell button when you subscribe, not to notifications or whatever it is, like customized, which is just nothing. You got to switch it to all so that every time we upload, you know about it. And that is how you're going to know exactly when that 100th episode is going to drop. It is a doozy. It is a doozy. We talk about a lot of things, not just Shane McMahon. We talk about generational wrestlers. Skylar and I talk about all three of the matches of the week that we've reviewed this week. We talk about, of course, Shane's career. And then, of course, all of the fantastic news that has happened in the week prior to this week, even though it's been kind of a slow news week with the exception of Keith Lee and Jay White debuting on AEW. That's really been the only major thing. I mean, Lance Archer and Adam Page had a pretty vicious street fight for the title, I think, or it was a Texas death match, allegedly. I didn't see it yet, but if it's good enough, maybe we'll take it. Maybe we'll give it a watch. But in any case, that's going to do it for this live stream. Thank you very much for saddling along with us. And we will see you Sunday for the 100th episode. And then, of course, next week is ACPW versus NWL, week 1 of season 3. So stay tuned for that. We got a lot coming up in the Court-Martail podcast. Thank you very much for being a part of this. And we will see you on Friday, everybody. Take care. Have yourselves a good Super Bowl. And then when I ask the stream to end. A lot of times I do this. I try to do the signature, and then I press the button, and then the button's not there, and then I'm like, oh, I gotta move it over. So now I'll see you Sunday.